Welcome back to the channel, I'm Austin, and today it's the M13 versus Grau, discussing which one is the best Modern Warfare AR. First I'll give you the stats to help you decide which weapon you want to use, then I'll give you my opinion based on my extensive use of each gun. And then finally, the best class setups are going to be at the end of the video, and I'm going to be setting the like goal at 50 for this installment of Warzone Versus. Let's start off with what the M13 does better than the Grau. And I think the thing that stands out the most when you first use the M13 is it's going to be its super fast fire rate for an AR. It's actually the second fastest firing assault rifle behind only the FFAR, with an insane fire rate of 891 rounds per minute compared to the Grau's 730. This makes the M13 feel very forgiving with its time to kill, because if you miss any shots, there's less time in between your bullets, making the penalty for missing much smaller. The M13's fast fire rate also leads to it having a better long-range DPS than the Grau, and this is also going to give it a better long-range TTK if no headshots are gotten. So I'm going to bring up a time to kill chart right now, just because it's going to get confusing while I'm explaining this if you don't have the visuals to back it up. So as you can see, yes, the M13 will kill faster with no headshots, but if you can get one headshot with the Grau, it's going to obliterate the M13's TTK. But if you can get two headshots with the M13, just look at this. They're identical for all practical purposes. So this one is going to really come down to which weapon you can aim better for which one will kill faster, because their TTKs are just so close together. Next, we're going to have to talk about the M13's 20% advantage with range over the Grau. Now, I know that sounds like a really big difference when you say 20%, but it's really only 6 meters because it's 31 to 37. So while that isn't the most ginormous advantage, when you're stacking on these attachments to add range to the weapon, it is going to make that gap get wider. And it's always good to have your top damage and your top TTK for as long as possible. So while 6 meters isn't that great, you can boost that up to like 10, 12 meters, and you're going to absolutely fry in that range. So basically from about 32 meters to about 44 meters when you put on the attachments, the M13 is going to kill way faster than the Grau, and that's going to be its sweet spot. Next, we have about a 10% advantage on ADS speed with the M13, which is very helpful for gunfights. Being able to snap onto your target faster is a key to winning more engagements. So that's actually a pretty big advantage. You might not think it's that big of a deal, but trust me, it's going to help you out. And finally, we're going to have a slightly better hip-fire spread with the M13, which gives it a slight advantage up close. Moving on over to what the Grau excels at, we're going to have to first off with what the Grau does almost the best in all of Warzone, and that's going to be its bullet velocity, and its max is going to be 1300 meters per second, and all that means is how fast the bullets are going to travel across the map, so how fast it travels from your gun to the enemy. And because it's so fast, it basically means you don't have to lead your shots at all and can aim directly at your enemy. That's going to make it a lot easier to aim at long ranges, which is a very nice advantage to have. Next, we're going to have to talk about it having better damage than the M13 at all ranges. If you're talking about stomach and chest shots, it's going to be 4 better. And then if you're talking about headshots, it's going to be 6 above the M13 at all ranges. So all that means is that it's going to end up having less shots to kill, meaning you don't have to hit as many, of course, to knock them. So that's a nice benefit as well. And that's also how its TTK competes very well with the M13's. And then this extra damage per shot also leads to the Grau having way more damage per mag, which is very useful in modes past solos. In solos, your damage per mag isn't too big of a deal because you only have to worry about one enemy to knock. You don't have maybe 2, 3, 4 people coming at you. So having more damage per mag is going to allow the Grau to do a lot better in bigger modes, and you're not going to have to reload as often as well when knocking people. And now that I'm talking about reloading already, the Grau also has an advantage in its reload time by about 10%, which is a nice little bonus advantage. Now I'm going to start talking about the close range TTK and where the Grau has an advantage, but I'm going to have to bring up a chart once again on this one because it'll get a little confusing without the visual aid once again. So the Grau will kill faster at close range if there's no headshots gotten, just slightly. But if the M13 gets one headshot, it's going to win quite easily. Now you can also see clearly if you get 2 headshots, then the Grau once again overtakes in time to kill. So these weapons, the amount of headshots you get really sort of like keeps on like bumping them up and down, and I'm only going out to 2 headshots total because the chances of someone getting more than 2 headshots is pretty unlikely most of the time, unless you're within like 5 meters or you're hacking. So that's why I'm just going up to 2 headshots, and it's just sort of confusing with them because they're just flopping back and forth depending on what they do. These weapons are really similar if you haven't gotten the idea already, but if we're going to move on over to the last couple things that the Grau actually does better at, it's going to be in movement and strafe speed. It's a very small advantage that you most likely wouldn't even notice while using these 2 weapons. If you just swapped back and forth between them, maybe you could tell, but I still doubt it. But I thought it was worth mentioning anyways because it still is an advantage for the Grau. It's time for the verdict, but just before I tell you which one I think is the better weapon, I'm gonna have to say 92% of you guys watching this video aren't subscribed, so if you like this content and you want to keep on watching it, please just make sure to hit that sub button and then hit that notification bell so you know right when the videos come out and you know which weapons are the best to use in Warzone. Alright, after all that, let's get into which one I think is better. For me personally, I would have to pick the Grau, and it's going to come down to a couple of factors, and the first one being that I believe the M13 is sort of the Mach 10 of assault rifles. Your ammo is just going to evaporate immediately because it has a fast fire rate, low damage, so it's a lot of shots to kill, and your ammo is just going to basically evaporate before your eyes. Like, you're not going to be able to use this weapon in trios or quads just because you're not going to have enough ammo. So that's why I really like the Grau over the M13. Not only for its damage per mag, its better reload. The recoils on both these weapons are both insanely easy to use. You might have a little bit of a adjustment period to get used to it, but once you do, you're not going to have any problems aiming with either one of these. And for me, I just have the preference of the Grau. Alright, we're going to start with my recommended weapon, the Grau, here for the class setup. And what we're going to be doing is building this to be as accurate as possible, increase its damage range as much. And that's basically the main properties we're going for, and bullet velocity, of course. And I'm going to have a few different builds for this, but every single one is going to have to start with the monolithic suppressor. It's kind of just the crutch attachment to all weapons for Modern Warfare. And we move over to the barrel. We do the Tempest Archangel because it gives us what? The 3 things I was talking about: damage, range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. Then I'm going to go over to the underbarrel, use the Commando foregrip, a classic for just lowering the recoil, making it easier to control. And then we always got to get extra ammo in the clip, so we're going to go with the 60 round mag. And then finally, this is where it differs up a bit. So I personally prefer to use the VLK 3x optic because this is a long range build. So while some other people like to use the tac laser instead, I think it's better to have the optic. But of course, if you think the iron sights are good enough to use out to 80, 90, 100 meters, then go right ahead, take off the VLK 3x optic and put on the tac laser. This right here is personally my in-game loadout weapon that I like to choose, where I put fully loaded on it, because you can only get the fully loaded perk with on a Modern Warfare weapon. So what I like to do is pick one Modern Warfare weapon that I think is going to be the best all-around weapon for in-game. If I have to land on a loadout in 5th zone real quick, I definitely would pick the Grau, and this would be the setup for it. You just put fully loaded on, get rid of tac laser or the optic, whichever one you did. But if this is an early game loadout pull, I would just throw on the VLK 3x optic, and right here, this would be my class setup to end up frying kids at long ranges. Moving on over to the M13 class setup, the Mach 10 of ARs, the easy to use weapon. I'm going to be building it just like I did the Grau, so we're pretty much going for the same attachments equivalent over on the M13 that we used on the Grau. So first off, monolithic suppressor. Then for the barrel, we go with the Tempest Marksman because that's the equivalent to the Archangel. And then from there, we got to use the Commando foregrip once again. 60 rounds, especially for this one. This is really key to use the 60 round mag because if you don't get extra bullets on this thing, it's really not going to be able to drop anyone. And then from there, you do an optic of your choice, which I think the VLK 3.0 is probably, the go-to for most people. And so that's going to be my recommendation here. So you could build this out as an SMG, but I just don't see the advantages of doing that. I think it's definitely the best to be used as a mid to long range option in solos and duos. And so it's going to be completely preference based on which one you like, the Grau or the M13. I think the Grau's better all around, so that's why I recommended that one. But this M13 class setup is going to be super easy to aim, super easy to drop 1 or 2 players before having to reload, but the ammo is going to be completely gone in a second. So that's going to be my full M13 versus Grau video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new, and hit that like button if you did. and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for future Warzone weapon versuses. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Psh, whatever. Peace.